In this lesson, we're going to learn the different ways you can test your product experience. UX design, as we've discussed already, and we've gone through a lot of it, begins by learning about the business model, doing user research, and understanding how a service can fit into the user's lives in a meaningful way. Thus, the UX-driven process does not necessarily end with the user interface. It's also about testing with people, supporting development, and making ongoing adjustments even after launch. So, if you think about it, what I want to share with you now are different ways you can test your experience, test your work, but also go through that and see what's working and what's not working. And some of these things we actually do at North Kingdom ourselves. A/B testing, simple thing. You just take one and compare it with another one. You apply some tests to it and you see what works and which one's effective. You can mostly do this with designs. We find ourselves doing this case of testing with different directions of design or iterations. We look at ways of, how do we want to interact with this type of experience if it behaves like this, or do we want to organize the content to be more rational and set up the interaction structure to behave like this? And we will test that to see which ones become more effective and a little bit more clear. Collaborative inspection. This is actually a fun one that we do internally. In fact, where we take this part, we work together, we tend to be in it so deep, we know it so well, but the moment we pin up, the moment we put up our designs on the wall, and we present our concept, and we try and talk through our concept, it gives light to it with a bit of deeper insight and perspective on the product, because everyone interprets things a little bit differently. Sometimes it can be more thorough and efficient with the stakeholders because they get to be a part of the process too. Like, for example, imagine us presenting our concept with the Creative Monarchy through the wireframe development. They will be able to comment and adjust and provide questions during that creative process, and they have added value. They feel they have been invested, which is huge because it allows us to move forward and make better decisions collectively as a whole. Quality assurance is something that we do in-house in every project, and I undoubtedly pressure you guys to make sure you do this as well. What this is the fact that it guarantees that all the items that we have agreed upon, everything from that brief that we set up and that rebrief that we had outlined and structured with the client, we have executed on. And that is in reflection of our wireframes. So think about it. Our wireframes handles all the functional aspects of our experience. And in the meta model, but also in the first prototype and gray model that our developers may build, we will test that. So imagine taking our wireframes and making a to-do list, almost like hit navigational header, open menu. And then we test that. Does that functionally work as the way we expect? Then it passes. Now, in cases where things do not pass and things fail, we write that up as a bug. We report that to the developer, and we let them know that what is the expected behavior that's supposed to happen following. Usability testing. This is probably one that we all think is the only way of testing. Honestly, when we talk about usability testing, everyone thinks this is it and this is only it. In the reality, yes, this is important, but one thing is tough with usability testing. It's, first of all, very time consuming. Some cases you don't have the time to perform this stuff. I mean, you have to do this in more larger projects, much more of a larger scale when you do have time. But you can do this on a shorthand too. I mean, you can have some small ones. You don't have to go so grand and in scale as well. You might interview who your audience is. You might interview who your tester is. But most important about this is that to have a participant test the experience allows you to kind of uncover or discover how they actually work with the experience. You have to kind of be the quiet self, the fly on the wall, and listen to them as they talk out loud. But what's very dangerous about this, and you have to be careful with it, is that sometimes the testers will like to tell you what they think you want to hear. Let me say that again. Sometimes the testers will tell you what they think you want to hear. You have to realize and learn how to take that with a grain of salt and how to reflect and take that sense of feedback from your testers and from your audience accordingly, of course. Now, content testing. I like content testing because it's also usually neglected And when you work with clients and they think they give you, they come to you and they be like, hey, we have all the copy, it's all good, no worries. And you're like, yeah, this doesn't make any sense. Like, no, it's everything there, it'll be fine. And we test it. And then we simply ask the people who we tested against. And we like, is this what you expected? I mean, did the summary of, did this description summary, was this clear to you? Coming to our site, did this site fulfill your expectations? And when they talk about the fact of, well, I wish it had a little bit more descriptions. I wish there was a bit more, informative storytelling I can't find anywhere else. That is huge feedback that we can take back and we can actually, flush out and create a more robust content source for our overall site experience. Last but not least, emotional response testing. Many of you might not be familiar with this. I particularly love emotional response testing. And if you recall why, I was kind of hesitant with the usability testing, because how people kind of tell you what they think you want to hear. Well, what's great about emotional response testing is that when you do perform this, you kind of you set up the table with a list of vocabulary cards. It's almost like you are providing the people who are testing your experience with a bit of vocabulary that they can use to better communicate with you. It's not so much like, how they feel or what they expect from this process or this flow, especially when it's their first time. It's more like, imagine them testing the experience, and imagine them going through our faux project, one of the first levels, and they're going through the experience, and then they stopped and they finished that and they solved it. Everything looked great. Everything was smooth from the outside. And then you had that list of vocabulary, and they were looking at that full list of cards on the table, and of all those cards, let's say they picked up uneasy. And you're like, wait, why did you choose that word? Why is that word striking to you that embodies this overall experience that you have just done, which you have passed and you have completed? And then you can have a conversation with your tester. And you can have a conversation with them about why things are uneasy, because it allows the participant to talk about the words that they selected and express a little bit more emotion of what they were feeling during that experience. And that is probably the most important thing that you're trying to seek out in all of this. So last but not least, always make time. And you can never test enough, but at the same time, you don't have all the time in the world. And my best advice is to find the right times, find when you can do it, and also do it when you feel like you need to do it. More importantly, when you think that is a time to test. Don't wait till the end, because if you wait till the end, you're going to be in a whole lot of trouble. Try and test as early as possible and spread it out, because through the process, all that will be telling and help you refine a better holistic experience.